Welcome back, everybody. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be doing my top 10 horror novels of all time. Top 10 horror books of all time. And as you know, if you followed my channel, you know what happens is I get all my horror books out and I get my top 10 and I'm like, oh, wait, man. What about all these? And then I'm like, oh, well, I'll do a top 15. I can't leave these books out of the top 10. And then I'm like, well, gosh, now I've got 15, but there's these other 5 or 6 books that belong in the top 15. So now we've got a top 20. So we'll just do top 20. Even though it says on the title of the video top 10, I'm going to give you an extra bonus 10. We're going to do a top 20. Not only that, but a lot of these books that I'm going to talk about, I've actually met the authors and I've got my book signed. Like my Stephen King. You know, I always show off my signed books. I've got Stephen King signed books. So when I come across one of these books that's been signed, I'll show it to you. Talk a little bit about the authors that I've met. Anyway, let's get to it. Let's get to my top 20 horror novels of all time. Tied at number 21. I couldn't even keep it at 20. Tied at number 21, we're going to have Something Wicked This Way Comes and Bentley Little's The Academy. I read a bunch of Bentley Little books. This is my favorite one. Something Wicked This Way Comes I had not read forever until just a few weeks ago, and I just read it. And it's a good book. This is like the grandfather of all the coming-of-age horror tales, like Stephen King's It or Robert McCammon's Boy's Life. It's just great. So now we got the honorable mentions out of the way. Let's get to the top 20. Coming in at number 20, Joe Hill's Nosferatu. I've been buying Joe Hill books ever since they started coming out. You know, Joe Hill is Stephen King's son, and I think he's got a great career. This stuff is dynamite. This is his best book, Nosferatu. The title says it all. Don't think I need to explain it. It's a great novel. Coming in at number 19, George R.R. Martin's The Armageddon Rag. Yeah, a lot of you didn't know that George R.R. Martin wrote supernatural thrillers and horror novels before he wrote Game of Thrones. I mean, he wrote Fever Dream, Dying of the Light, Armageddon Rag. I think Armageddon Rag is the best of the group. It's about a heavy metal band named the Nazgul. And, you know, things just go sideways and horrific from there. You know how heavy metal bands are into Satanism and all that. Well, just picture that. It's full of a lot of rock and roll nostalgia, too. Coming in at number 18, Peter Straub's The Throat. I love Peter Straub. You know, he is most famous for collaborating with Stephen King on The Black House and The Talisman, but he's got some dope, thick, nice, epic fantasy books of his own. The Throat, I'm thinking, being the best one. Coco was pretty close, but I like The Throat the best. It's just dynamite. Number 17, Necroscope by Brian Lumley. Imagine Robert Ludlum's Bourne Identity mixed with the most badass vampire tale you can imagine. And you've got the Necroscope series. You know, I also met Brian Lumley at the World Fantasy Convention in Tempe, Arizona back in 2004. He did sign a couple books for me. So, I've got my Brian Lumley books. I didn't really get to know the guy that well other than to just go through the book signing, but hey, I got some signed books by the dude. Coming in at number, I think this is 16, Only the Good Indians. Yes, this is a brand new horror novel. Just came out this year. Published by Simon & Schuster Saga Press. Published by my same publisher. So I gave this a read, and man, it leapt right into my top 20 horror novels of all time. It was that good. This is about Indians, Native Americans, their relationship to nature and their relationship to American society, and just some of the mysticism and horror tales that kind of are in their culture. And it's great. And it's got a lot to do with elks too. Thus the elk on the cover. Oh, it's a great debut horror novel by Stephen Graham Jones. Number 15, my main man, Jonathan Mabry and Ghost Road Blues. This is book 1 of a horror trilogy he did. And man, Jonathan Mabry is one of my favorite guys on the planet. I've been to a lot of Comic-Cons with this guy and sat on a lot of panels with this guy. He's one of the greatest, most generous writers on the planet. And yeah, he signed my book too. He signed it too. He signed all my books. Jonathan Mabry's Ghost Road Blues. Serial killer. Small town. Oh, it's just dynamite. Dynamite. What's next? What comes next? I think this is 15 or 16. I don't know where we're at anymore, folks. I lost track. Jaws. Jaws is a terror. This is like a horror. This is like a monster movie. This would make a great monster movie. Someone ought to make a movie. That just dawned on me. This book is so badass. Someone should actually probably make a movie about this. I bet it would be popular. I mean, people love sharks. Jaws is badass, man. I think we're at 12 or 13. Forests of the Heart by Charles D. Lint. You know, a lot of people don't think Charles D. Lint is horror. Even Charles D. Lint would tell you he's not a horror writer. But it's just when I started collecting Charles D. Lint books, they were all found in the horror section. So I've always kind of considered him a horror writer. And this is another guy that I've met at a lot of Comic-Con conventions, and I've had dinner with them and lunch and sat at the bar with him and talked with him, and he's one of the guys that really helped my career out. And he's also signed my books. But Charles D. Lint, if you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, if you like that tone of horror and supernatural thriller, Buffy the Vampire Slayer kind of stuff, this guy is for you. Charles D. Lint is for you. Who do we have next? F. Paul Wilson, The Keep. Oh, this book is super. This is set in Romania in a castle, and it's got the castle, and it's got Nazis. It's set back in the 1940s with Nazis. It's got a castle, a haunted castle, and there's vampires, and there's creatures, and werewolves, and all sorts of stuff. And you know, if you want to know, there was a movie made about The Keep, and it was filmed in Austria at a castle called Burg Hohenwürden. It was filmed there. Clint Eastwood's movie Where Eagles Dare was also filmed in Burg Hohenwürden. It's a great castle for filming things. Not only that, but if you've ever watched The Sound of Music, the scene where she's sitting in the meadow teaching the kids how to sing doe, a deer, a female deer, there's a castle way in the background, and that's Burg Hohenwürden. So, you know, the book is killer. The book is killer. Number 11. Clive Barker's The Damnation Game. Man, there's nobody writes grotesque as well as Clive Barker. I mean, this guy's twisted. Everything in all of his books is just twisted into the complete grotesque. It's lovely. I love it. It's delicious. The Damnation Game is his first novel, and it's also my favorite of his that he's done. I love it. What, top 10? We're in the top 10. This is where we should have started, folks. Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, I know it's more of a mystery, more of a thriller, more of a serial killer novel, but man, this is a horror novel above all else. I mean, Hannibal Lecter, I mean, come on. What character in the horror genre is more iconic than Hannibal Lecter? Silence of the Lambs is a great novel. Well written, very suspenseful. Carrie Comfort by Dan Simmons. This is my favorite vampire novel of all time. And it's a thick one. This has got a unique take on vampires that, man, you'll never forget. Dan Simmons, man. He's one of my favorite writers of all time also. Carrie Comfort, go out and get it. And there might be another Dan Simmons novel on this list. Just pay attention. Book number 8. Shutter Island by Dennis Lehane. I know, some of you might be like, no, that's not a horror book. Hey, it is too. If I say it is, it is. I mean, this has got a twist ending to it better than even The Sixth Sense, you know? Shutter Island. You know, Dennis Lehane's mostly known for his noirish thrillers and mystery novels like Mystic River and Gone Baby Gone. But this Shutter Island, he says this is his horror novel. And I believe him. If he says that it's his horror novel, it is his horror novel. Shutter Island, great. Maybe y'all saw a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. Book number 7, Swan Song by Robert McCammon. Oh yeah, this thing, holy cow. You know, here's the thing. If you've been following my channel, you know that I work at the Utah State Prison, and for a brief period of time, I ran all the prison libraries. The most stolen book out of the prison libraries was Swan Song. I couldn't keep copies in. Swan Song, post-apocalyptic, nuclear war has destroyed everything. This gets compared to The Stand a lot. It is a big, thick, huge book. Robert McCammon's also another one of my good writer friends who's signed my books for me at different conventions. I like the guy. He's dope. His books are dope. Swan Song. Maybe there's another Robert McCammon book on my list coming up too. We shall see. But Swan Song, you can't do worse. Number 6, Dean Koontz, Intensity. I love Dean Koontz. I got pretty much most of the Dean Koontz novels out there. Intensity is my favorite. I remember the very day I read this. I mean, it was a long time ago, but I remember the very day I read it. I sat down in the morning to read it, and man, I just, from the moment I was hooked, I couldn't look away until the book was finished. I didn't stop reading. Intensity, it's intense. That's why it's called Intensity. Top 5, folks. Start the top 5 in high fashion with Louis L'Amour's The Haunted Mesa. Yeah, Louis L'Amour is mostly known for Westerns, but this was the book that he wanted. This was the book he was meant to write. This was his magnum opus. This was his darling. He wanted to write this supernatural thriller set in the desert Southwest that incorporated all the ancient Native American mysticism and the skinwalkers and the supernatural, and it has time travel and alternate universes, and it's got mesas that are haunted, right? I mean, just, if you've been to the desert Southwest, you know there's magic out there, folks. And Louis L'Amour really captures it in The Haunted Mesa. The only horror novel he ever wrote, and it's dynamite. Number 4, Stephen King's It. Oh my gosh. Is there a better coming-of-age horror novel on the planet? There's one, and it's coming up next. It's coming up here pretty soon. But this is a really awesome horror book. Iconic horror novel. I don't even think I need to say anything about it. It's just that freaking awesome. My number 3 top horror book of all time, The Terror by Dan Simmons. Yeah, you saw Carrie Comfort earlier. Well, now we've got The Terror, which is about a ship that sets sail up to the North Pole and gets stuck in the ice. And then weird creatures start coming out of the ice. And everything's like 60 below zero all the time. And people are freezing. And there's monsters out there in the Arctic. Oh, it's terrible. It's terror. It's terror. That's why it's called The Terror. It's awful. You don't want to be stuck in a frozen ship when monsters are after you. No, you don't. It sucks. My second favorite horror novel of all time, Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. Yeah, you saw me hold up Swan Song earlier. This one is even more so than It. Boy's Life is the quintessential coming-of-age horror tale. Better than Stranger Things, better than It. Boy's Life is so perfect of a novel, I can't even tell you how perfect it is. It's just beautiful. You have to read it to get it. And like I said, Robert McCammon's one of my main men, and he did sign his copy to me. Boy's Life. Not just a great horror novel, just a great literary piece of fiction. My number 1 horror novel of all time is also my favorite novel of all time, and that would be Stephen King's The Stand. And I think that's the end of the video. I don't even need to say anything about this. This book is just freaking awesome from start to finish. It's the best horror novel ever written. It is the best novel ever written. And that's my list, folks. I hope you all liked it.